the woods?
Yeah.
Depends.
Stereotypes.
Do you have a Canadian flag tattooed anywhere on your body?
That's
Living
that's
in
how
problem.
they don't give us passports. They just give us that.
Sure.
That red and black plaid, and you're good to go. It's citizenship.
I mean,
two-
we
two
can
for
always
two.
record and then send it to him afterwards too, so it's not a big deal.
Maple
Make sure.
syrup and
There's no maple leaf. He's got the fucking maple
May
tree
as well
on
do,
his
I think
arm.
you do it later.
Bring
Just
it.
make sure it's what we like. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think
Sure.
because they're not gonna. They're all over the East Coast, all over the place. It don't fucking matter.
All right, yeah. Sounds good. So we are ready to go here.
Can we open it up here? We can go.
We're hot, recorded.
All right,
On
so
the audio?
this is a special podcast today, and this is in response to the latest Joe Rogan episode 984.
94. He interviews Yvette D'Entremont.
is that how you
There
say
you go.
it?
Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah.
Now he had said something about he had an episode prior that led to that particular.
Well,
979.
okay.
He read her article, correct?
I think
He read her article, and that's
So that's what prompted it in the earlier episode. It was totally unrelated. He was speaking with some. I think the guy was like.
London.
He was a British guy, and they were going on about like feminism and postmodernism and stuff like that. And then Rogan just made a real hard switch in the middle. The guy made reference to a doctor, and then Rogan was like, a real doctor or a chiropractor? And they just went totally down this whole road.
Oh, wow.
Rogan was like, they kill people, this, that, and the other. And then he'd made mention to this Yvette D'Entremont, who was gonna see, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Who he had mentioned that he was gonna have on the podcast, and she wrote this article. Chiropractic is bullshit.
So basically they go off on this episode with this. Her name is Sci Babe, SCI Babe on social media, and she apparently she did that to counter the whole food babe.
it's a wordplay on the food babe girl.
But
right?
she, they really went off on chiropractors, and I listened to the episode, and it was a lot of chiropractors aren't doctors. Chiropractors are bullshit. They don't help anything. Don't waste your time or money going to them. And as I'm listening to this, I'm like, wow, this is going to generate a lot of
and
they kill people.
in defense of Joe, for a very long time, I kind of felt this way for a very long time, and that was just because for 15 years of our career of running gyms, I had worked with a lot of different chiropractors, and I remember thinking, because I know that they referred to them as doctors, and so I assumed, like, okay, their level of knowledge and understanding of anatomy and biomechanics, I assumed would be much higher than mine. And I would start asking questions about my body and issues that I was having, and I could just tell by the way I was getting answers from them, like, man, this guy or girl doesn't know that much. And so, and I kept running into that one after another to where it got to a point where I kind of felt this way for a really long time, to the point that I remember when I met Brink, Dr. Brink, a couple of years ago, and I think the very first words out of my mouth to him was,
I hate you.
Yeah, I said, I don't like chiropractors.
Yeah.
And I said, this is why I don't like them, because I feel like a lot of them are like this. And I went on to explain, and he right away said, I agree with you. And then from that moment on, I was open ears. I wanted to hear his thoughts on it. And then we started discussing this. And then it wasn't much longer after that I met Dr. Jordan Shallow. So I got a chance to be somebody very, very much so like Joe Rogan, where I had one or two, well, in my case, I had lots of experiences where I felt like a lot of these chiropractors were not that credible. But then I go and I meet a couple guys who have literally changed the way I lift and exercise as a 35-year-old fitness professional who's been doing this for years. So, and then I heard the episode with Joe Rogan, and I thought, man, what's so crazy is that's not like Joe. Joe is, what I love about his show is he tends to take both sides really, really well, and he really went in on the chiro pretty hard right here, man. So I wanted to make sure we brought the boys down to kind of discuss it a little bit.
Well, one thing that they said was that chiropractors are not doctors. And what are they talking about when they say that?
Well, I think they're not doctors. They are not MDs. You know,
and there's a difference.
Yeah, no different than a DPT, which is a doctor of physical therapy, or a PhD, who is a doctor of, whatever their discipline is. We are a doctor of chiropractic. That's what we're a doctor of.
Yeah.
Got it.
Just because you don't understand the designation
Yeah.
doesn't mean we're any less or any more of anything. We have a level of education of the field of study at its highest level, which is like if you can't draw the difference between an MD, a DC, a DPT, an ACU, or an LAC, an acupuncturist, like you can throw a dead cat on the Almaden right here and hit someone with a doctorate degree in something. Everyone in the Silicon Valley is a doctor. Okay. But I think to your point, when you expressed that you felt this way about chiros for a long time, you kept that a personal thing. You didn't air that out.
Right.
Joe Rogan, by sheer numbers, is the most prolific interviewer of all time, period. He takes Diane Sawyer and bends her over his knee. This guy's 1 billion downloads a year through YouTube and podcasts.
Crazy.
It's insane.
A lot of influence.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like to have that level of responsibility and to take someone with, marginal credibility as a scientist. Let's air quote that.
Chemist.
Yeah, sure, right?
Chemist.
Well, we're not doctors, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
We're not chemists.
But to give her the same platform as someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Lawrence Krauss, these extremely intelligent guys, and further that, like you said, he sees the other side. Flat earthers we talked about. He'll hear the other side of like conspiracy moon landings. But okay. So with both of those factors in mind, to come on and sort of hard and fast say, these guys are bullshit, they kill people, this is all the scientists. Here I have this random, uneducated person on the subject to tell us more with their confirmation bias and bullshit little article.
Well, let's dive into some of the things that she talks about, starting off with right away the origin.
The founder.
Well, let's start with the very first one, which is the 2.5-minute episode that Rogan and the guy from Ingle River talks about how the chiro killed the lady from LA. And does it happen? Sure, it can happen. But again, did the chiro do his due diligence? We don't know. Yeah. Right? So does it happen? Yeah, it's a VBI. It's a vertebrobasilar insufficiency. So they go in there, they adjust the neck, something bad happened. No different than you getting in a car every single day and running the risk of you getting in a car accident. You still do it every single day. So them coming in, and people ask me when that happened, can you adjust my neck? I can, but I'm not adjusting for the subluxation, right? I'm creating movement in here. Is there a risk? There's always a risk.
Well, explain that real quick, Brink. Explain what does that mean, what you just said? What is the difference between popping somebody's neck to adjust them versus what you just said?
So if you're going to go back to old school, right? Old school is, if we adjust the subluxation, which we can talk about in a little bit, then we're getting things to move better, right? We're trying to get the nerve interference out of your body. It's sort of like the foot off the hose is sort of what they talked about, in school. Modern day, I think where I'm coming from, I don't know about Jordan as well, is I'm not creating more movement. Right? I just want things to move better. If our bodies at 70 and 80 years old don't move, we're going to be stuck. And if we're stuck, crap goes wrong. So if we can move better, then everything is going to move better. As to what moves better, again, I don't know.
I think we should, I don't know if now is like the time to get real deep into the anatomy here of like the adjustment. And so the foot on the hose, right? The nerve compression. And I think stroke should have its own point in this. But let's start with the S word, the subluxation thing. The conventional model is that, the nerves, the spinal nerves that leave sort of the IVF, the holes in your bones in your back, to really simplify it, and that innervate everything in your body with, let's call it malalignment or sort of an aberrant positioning of adjacent vertebra. The initial theory was, okay, that affects the nerves. Ergo, those nerves are affected to whatever they innervate, whether it be, somatosensory, visceral sensories, visceral motor. So, motor output to the organs, sensory input from the appendages, all that could be affected. We know that to now not be the case. But, and this is one thing I want to look through the prism of her critical thinking and flip it back on Western medicine. So because we still adjust, even though we know that's not the case.
Sure.
But we can reappropriate that intervention and its efficacy. So a great example, let's go with, 1928. I'm pretty sure it's 1928. Alexander Fleming took a useless, or thought to be useless, mold, right? Mm-hmm. That we now know to be penicillin. Changed the game. First antibiotic. So he had something we thought was useless, when we now designated a use for it. Fast forward to late 1980s. Sildenafil citrate. Anyone know what that is? Mm-mm. Good.
That's for this boner pill.
Fuck. You're guilty.
Of course Sal knows.
Yeah. So exactly. So
that was for heart. They made it for heart.
British researchers. They made it for like blood pressure. So what did? They didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah. They said, okay, You give you lemons, here's lemonade, right? So, but with the adjustment, we can do the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe if that's not the mechanism of correction, what I mean, and this is sort of a prevailing theory, is now you need to understand a pretty deep knowledge of anatomy, especially spinal musculature anatomy, because people go in with back pain.
Which I found really crazy from this girl, listening to her talk about her own mechanics and her own dysfunction that she currently has.
Yeah.
She seemed lost. And I'm going
sure.
How is she going to come over and harp on these chiropractors that have a level of understanding and knowledge of the anatomy way beyond what she has?
But I think the big thing that drove me nuts on that end was she sat there and she's throwing us under the bus, but at the same time says, I have a great DO. But most chiros don't shoot x-rays. Okay, I don't need to. I don't have an x-ray machine in my office. But I guarantee I know when a fracture's a fracture. Yeah. And if she goes in to get adjusted by her DO because he's better at adjusting than we are, and he adjusted a fractured rib, idiot. Yeah, right. It's like, you didn't do your homework then, did you? But yet, go to your DO because he did you a service. And, oh, shit, we found out that you had a fractured rib. Well, duh, really?
Yeah. I mean, if you go back to the subluxation model, if you look at the innermost musculature of your back, your deepest layer of muscles are innervated by a part of your spinal cord called like the dorsal root. So we basically have a ventral comes out the front. That's motor control. That's voluntary. The dorsal root, for the most part, is sensory control. That's sensory input. So we have motor output goes ventral. We do our thing. We feel what we're doing back through that dorsal column. But in that dorsal root lies the motor innervation to the nerve or to the muscles of our back. So, I mean, I would like her to name one erector spinae muscle.
She's a chemist.
Exactly. and apparently a shitty one at that if she runs a stupid blog. She's a keyboard warrior, right? Name one transversospinalis muscle that's innervated by this dorsal horn. So what we're doing, and this is the prevailing theory that I've been working with, is when we rapidly change the articulation between the two vertebrae, we're actually bringing those small muscles to an end range that otherwise couldn't be done internally. Right? Like you need to sort of like really, if you crack your own back, you need to like really relax and rapidly sort of shift. Well, with that, that's active. You're using major muscles to pull those vertebrae away from each other, which could then cause over-rotation, over-lateral flexion, whatever. But just like when we stretch a bicep, we change the relative position of origin and insertion. When you adjust, that's what you're doing. So those muscles are not that much different than any other muscle, as they have muscle spindles, they have GTOs, Golgi tendon organs. So when you're changing that relative position, then you're getting that muscle to relax. Because it's in spasm, because it's an internal mechanism of protecting the spinal cord. It reads one vertebra's position relative to another, and if we get too flexed, laterally flexed and rotated away, oh shit, that's how we herniate a disc. That's how that's how we're going to get paralyzed or some sort of paresthesia or some sort of numbness, tingling, or weakness. That's when the muscle spasms up.
I see.
That's
so what I really hate that proponents, super strong like her, proponents of, Western medicine or the accepted Western medicine model, is that they forget that Western medicine, when they start to come up with their critiques, those are the same critiques I could have for Western medicine. For example, they talk about subluxations and, there's no proof that this is happening. And you're talking about how that was the old model and how the new model is kind of changing. Western medicine, go get an antidepressant. We don't know how they really work. We don't know how many of the medications that we take really work. Lithium, go take lithium. How does that working? They have no idea, yet they still prescribe it. Yeah. So I think with chiropractic and with other methods, look, stretching, we know that stretching improves range of motion. The way we explained it before was wrong.
No, I know.
Exactly.
We've changed that.
It's exactly
we had to change the way we explained it because now we understand the way it actually works to a deeper level. That doesn't mean that stretching didn't work before and now it works. It's just the explanation has changed a little bit. And this is true for Western medicine, up, down, and left from right. So when they use that same, they use a litmus test for other methods that they don't apply to themselves. Yeah. That's what really pisses me off.
But you can also go back to what you're just saying is, or what she said is, massage therapists are all science-based. So, okay, really?
When I heard that,
what massage therapists have you been to that's very science-based? Yeah. I know one. She works in my office. I do know that, But at the same time, it's like, all right, what do a lot of massage therapists sit there and tell you after massage? Go drink a lot of water because you have a lot of toxins in your body. Yeah. What the hell did you just release? That's the case your body is so poisonous right now, you're in trouble. Go to the doctor, right? Come on, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we'll use massaging as an example or foam rolling. Like the way we explain those things, we explain like you have your muscle is tight, there's an adhesion, a part of it that's, we need to press on to release this adhesion, and now you've got, but Now we know that that may not be the case, but what's happening a lot of times when you push on something is you release painkillers directly to that area. That may be happening with certain types of adjustments. Look, here's the other thing is they said that anecdote is not evidence, which is true. In science, anecdote is not evidence. However, thankfully, because of the internet, we can look at a lot of anecdote, and it directs us in directions that, Western medicine has yet to have explanations for. And in some of these cases, like she talks about how leaky gut syndrome was not a real thing, or how certain food intolerances are not a real thing. I'll bet my house that in the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to have evidence, and maybe the way they're explaining it now may be wrong, but there's evidence that there's something there because we have millions and millions of people who have similar types of symptoms. And this is true for, I'll tell you what, I have my own personal experience. I was lifting weights. I think I was doing a dumbbell pullover. I felt a loud pop in my back, severe pain. This was in my thoracic area of my spine, near the right a little bit. And people listening right now can relate. Everybody has felt a pop in their back at some point with severe pain. Barely could breathe, barely could move. Went to a chiropractor friend of mine. He adjusted me immediately after that adjustment. About 85 to 90% of that pain was gone, and it didn't come back, and I got much better the next day. Had he not done that adjustment, that pain would have taken much longer to get there. And I felt it immediately after his adjustment. So, you can't tell me that there's not something going on there.
Yeah, I mean, her fatwa seems to be against manual medicine as a whole. If you look at sort of her lineage of articles and stuff, she seems to be a skeptic and a cynic of manual medicine. It's like, you cannot fix a mechanical problem with a chemical solution. And then to Rogan's point about like us killing people, Johns Hopkins released a study. I think it was 2015. Iatrogenic related deaths. So you go into the hospital with something, they F up, they do something wrong.
A lot.
Oh, man.
It was the third leading cause of death in the United States.
That's crazy.
And let's go back with the history.
Chiropractors don't kill nearly as many
No,
people.
That's
but,
the case. My malpractice would be through the roof.
That's another point, because he talked about insurance on the show.
Yeah.
It's like, me and
There's
this guy,
no way that they would accept it.
No, I mean, put our malpractice insurance against like an OB. Or
My dad's a dentist, and his is 10 times higher than mine.
Seriously?
He's a dentist. Yeah.
It's crazy.
But let's go back about like the history thing. We're in our infancy, right? And we're attempting to evolve just as medicine has since Hippocrates, right? But like flipping that prism of critical thinking and using her logic and exploring where medicine has gone wrong along the way, right? George Washington, your first president, you know how he died.
Your first president.
Yeah, sorry,
Canadian.
Sorry, gotta keep it north of the 49th, man. No, but so he woke up on December 2nd, 1799, with a sore throat. That afternoon, he bled to death by his physicians. Hypovolemia, that's how he died. When you guys have a sore throat, do you think twice about going to your MDs? No. You don't worry about, all right, break out the leeches and scalpels. We're going to gut this fucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, and I mean, move forward. And that's, that's a long time ago.
The irony of that story now is that they're using leeches now in actual medicine because of their anticoagulative effects. They're actually studying leeches.
We've come full circle.
Exactly.
Hey, I know a president that could use a few. But fast forward, I mean, that was before the inception of chiropractic. So you can say, well, we've come a long way from there too. Sure. Late 1950s, West Germany, thalidomide was the antiemetic of the day. We've cured morning sickness. It's the latest and greatest medicine.
Kids born without arms.
Yeah, right? Straight up, 2,000 kids dead, 10,000 flipper kids in West Germany.
Yeah.
Okay, and then one of her arguments she made was she said that's not how science works. Science works based on the newest evidence. Newest evidence of the day was that thalidomide is the shit. You guys aren't going to throw up. 9 months later, out comes kids with like 3 fingers and like a nose in the center of their forehead.
Yeah.
So by that logic, it's flawed on the face of it, right? Sigmund Freud, known cokehead, father of modern psychology. You're going to go to your shrink and be worried that he's going to give you a blow, like, or maybe go to your shrink for, I don't know. I don't know how you work, but it's like her logic when flipped on its head.
And this is because they were using, and we got to let our audience know who may not have listened to the episode, they are talking about the founder of chiropractic care.
D.D. Palmer.
Palmer. What's his first name?
D.D. Palmer.
D.D. Palmer.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd love for you guys to go back into the history of him.
He was a magnetic healer, and he used seances to speak to spirits, and he had there was a lot of weird shit about him, but we're talking about what, 18...
It's like 1895, 97, somewhere right
yeah,
there.
and he founded these schools. Are the schools anywhere near the same in terms of what they're teaching to what they
Has
were
it
teaching
evolved
back
at
then?
all?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's evolved 100 times,
Of
for
course.
sure. It has to. Other than that, then, your insurance companies, your basic, we'd be thrown out with the psychics and all that type of, and there are those that still do that stuff.
Go over the hill.
You know,
and
yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with it on that end. The problem is I think, within our profession, there's really not the identity, that like the medical profession has now, created. Now, why is that? Because people want to be holistic and people want to be sort of the medipractors. And there's a huge difference between sort of both of those. But the philosophy is still the same. We want to try and heal without doing a lot of the medication. And the body knows what to do. We just have to put it in the right position in order to do it.
And that's the thing too, like what he just said, that we're all going after the same thing. So whether it be, acupuncture or massage or chiropractic or doctor, let us handle this. What was she? But like an art school Bachelor of Science chemist, failed career as a forensic scientist, and now turned keyboard warrior. Let the adults handle this, please. You know what I mean? Like, let the people who are actually trying to have a positive effect on the day-to-day, and whether it be anecdotally or be research-based or an amalgamation therein, regardless of the field that you practice, there is an art to medicine.
For sure.
Because you're dealing with people, and people are in an exact science.
Right.
So we're not petri dishes in your chemistry lab, right? These are people with jobs and kids and mortgages and shit, things you need to consider.
Well, there's in her whole episode, because they talk about chiropractors for like the first part, and then they start talking about other things. And some of the other stuff that she was talking about was they got into GMOs, for example, and they talk about how we've been modifying food forever, which is true. We have been modifying food forever, but we have not been taking a gene from a bacteria and inserting it into a vegetable, or taking a fish gene and putting it like that didn't exist before. So that's completely new. And the glyphosates that we breed that we design these things to take is completely new. So I think a lot of her arguments is she's so general and making these false connections to try and back herself up. Now, to her defense, and to even Joe's defense, I have seen a lot of chiropractors that make some dubious claims. Like,
I agree, 100%.
Ridiculous.
100%.
What's up with those guys? Like, I had a friend who was a chiropractor who told me that if you got adjusted properly, you didn't need vaccines. If you had the flu, I could adjust you and you would get well. He could correct mental illness with adjustments. And the way he defended it was that the central nervous system controlled everything. So once you made the central nervous system healthy, then everything would be healthy. Which, we can make that connection to so many different things. I could say muscles move you, and
you can look at a lot of things. I mean, look at Wim Hof right now, as to how he's trying to control his ANS through his breathing and, being able to go into the cold and that type of therapy. I mean, you look at, right now with Andrea Ospina, who's a chiro, right? And how he's creating all this different movement-based approach, but getting your body to move better. So I think it's not an exact science anymore. It's full body. And what does that mean for every individual when, I could put 10 people in line and they'll have low back issues? It doesn't mean I'm going to give the same exact hamstring stretch for every single one of them. Every person is an individual. So as an individual, we have to now try and tailor our treatment to them. So I'm not going to sit there and tell them, I'm going to adjust your back and your back pain is going to go away. I have no idea. I let their body sort of tell us, as we take them through our proper exams, what they actually need and what they don't need.
I think to your point, like you asked why chiropractors deviate maybe further to the left, already in a point on a spectrum further to the left of Western medicine. There's a few things, I think. I mean, they were indoctrinated in a time where that was more accepted.
Sure.
Right? So, I mean, if you grew up in Germany in like the early 1900s, you'd probably be a Nazi. Looking back on that, holy shit, and Germans since then, not Nazis, right? But that was what they were told. That's what they spent money on, and someone told them that. And that's where they're at now. So I think you'll see as the turnover rate of the profession progresses and hopefully is allowed to evolve, unfettered by these stupid comments from someone who's not in the profession nor has a deep understanding of what we do on a day-to-day, you'll notice that what I see, and especially, knowing how you operate and the athletes you work with, the amalgamation, because she put physical therapy above us. The interconnectivity of our scope of practice now is almost negligible. I've had PTs reach out to me and ask, can you teach me to adjust? Not in their scope of practice, mind you, and they dress it up as a grade 5 mobilization. Sure. But I know PTs that are great adjusters.
Sure.
But they see value in what we are centered our craft around. So I think to the people who are indoctrinated with that, they'll slowly go the wayside.
So, and what to back you up, I'm meeting more chiropractors, not a ton, but like you guys, like you two, I'm meeting more chiropractors who adjustments are, the manual adjustments or whatever are a small tool in their toolbox.
Yep.
Now, in the past, and not that long ago, I'm going to be honest with you guys, 15 years ago,
That was the go-to.
you went to a chiropractor, that's all they did.
Sure, yeah.
They didn't do anything else. Now I'm meeting you guys, and I'm hearing other chiropractors, and they're corrective
It's
exercise
movement first. Yeah.
corrective
Well,
exercise
he nailed it.
specialists, even more so than, I mean, I consider myself pretty well versed in corrective exercise, and I don't hold a candle to some chiropractor like you two. I see some of the correctional exercise move that you guys. I've learned quite a bit from meeting with you guys and talking to you guys about correctional exercise. It seems to me like it's is it progressing that way, or is it just you guys are way out of the spectrum?
I think we are probably more of that, 5 to 10%, on the upper end of us doing that. But I think what I like about this whole topic right now is it's bringing light to what our profession is, and in order for us to make change, right, there has to be change to be made, and if we're just at a stalemate, then no, something like this has to rock the boat. And this rocking the boat right now is, it's getting us to talk about it, but it's bringing out, the other people in the woods, they're like,
because
I've
there's
been
been
doing
shenanigans,
For
right?
sure.
And you guys admit that.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
been
yeah,
some people
absolutely.
like,
For sure.
yeah,
I mean,
doing some
what
shady
Rogan
things.
did was Rogan took, she took an out of place person in a field and basically tantamount to saying, all cops kill minorities. Cops are stupid. Cops kill people. Here's this blonde white lady to tell us more about an article she wrote and confirmation bias she found on the internet. You could do that. We could sit here right now, pull up our laptops and find case after case after case. If you saw an officer walking down the street right now, would you say, fuck that guy? That guy's a minority killer. No, because you know that, I mean, I don't know how many times I've had to defend myself that, listen, there is a spectrum in every profession. If you saw a bad dentist, you'd go to another dentist. If you saw a bad MD, you'd go to another MD. If you saw a bad barber, you'd go get your hair cut somewhere else. You wouldn't stop cutting your hair forever, and barbers are bullshit, right? But with this hard line against chiropractic, and maybe it's, as an anti-movement of Western medicine, because we are able to use movement as a prescription to better, I mean, psychologically we can, we were talking last episode about the benefits of exercise on depression and things like that we can now sort of do a catch-all. We don't know how we're doing it yet, and we're in the infancy stages of being able to learn how exercise and corrective movement, but you need people at the forefront, and like Brink said it really well about assessment. The old assessment, what it used to be? Here, stand in front of this x-ray.
Yeah.
We're going to see what this superimposition of this black and white photo of you standing still looks like.
That's even what MDs do right now.
Yeah,
Right? They're going to prescribe and say, let's do some imaging. Yeah. They will rarely ever put their hands on you.
Yeah.
So
or
they're
have
not going
them
to put
move.
their hand. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let me watch you really move and let's see. Oh, your shoulder hurts. Well, okay, you have a shoulder problem. Let's go do some imaging.
Yeah.
For what? Oh, there's nothing on there. Well, I don't know.
What a great point.
Really?
I don't know how many times I have seen like an MD before knee or shoulder pain, and right away it's X-ray, then pills or something else. Versus let's see you move it, and then from there. I want to talk so we can actually give people some tangible things to help them with choosing a chiropractor and knowing what's bullshit and what's not. When I said when we first started this that I had a bad taste in my mouth for many years for chiropractors because this was my experience. I would go, and I was always open-minded. I'd always be willing to go, listen and have someone explain to me and adjust me or whatever and explain their knowledge behind what they're trying to do. What I found was this, and this is why I think the people that love chiropractors, they can feel the difference. If you've ever been adjusted and you've got some sort of aches, pains, something that you're dealing with, and you've been adjusted and you walk out and you're like, fuck, I feel a lot better. Something's happening. Something's working. But then what ends up happening, they go about their day, a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, they feel like shit again, so they come back to their chiropractor, he readjusts them again, and then it becomes this vicious cycle. And I found that a lot of these chiropractors, and I don't know if it's a lack of knowledge or because they're trying to be smart business-wise, because it's in their best interest to have you keep coming back and getting readjusted every single week. And the biggest thing that I remember the very first time that I met Brink, and the first thing he says to me, and we're in his office and we're talking and I'm letting him know like all the issues that I have. And I'm like, what do you think it is? And he says, okay, well, let's come out here. And we walk past his adjustment table and he takes me out into his little grassy field area inside his office. And he says, take your shoes off. And he goes, let me see you walk. Let me see you. And he wants to watch the way I move. And I've actually never been adjusted by him. So all the times we've hung out, all the times we've visited, we've never He's never adjusted me. It's always been about movement and teaching me how to intrinsically get connected to parts of my body that I've lost connection to. And I think that right away is, I think for people, that's when you know a red flag should go up, is if your chiro, all he does is adjust you and then see you week by adjust you, see you next week.
Supplements.
Yeah, or exactly, or prescribe supplements versus talking about the things that you should be doing outside. Because I think you both would agree that even the best adjustment done to you without exercise and putting the work in outside there, you're going to always keep coming back. Am I right?
And that's their business model, and that's, again, you're selling ice to an Eskimo. Right. And that's why you keep going back in over and over and over again, because you do feel better, but yet now the crutch becomes, I have to go in and see my chiro because I'm out.
Yeah.
Well, where the hell did it go?
Yeah, exactly.
What,
God,
I hate
that.
What do you mean you're out? What's moved? Oh, well, I slipped the disc. Where did it slip to? Where did that thing go?
You walked in here.
Yeah,
you did not slip the
exactly.
disc.
No. It's like, you want to know what it is? Let me show you my 20 millimeter disc extrusion that I had at L5S1. That's a disc that now slipped out,
But I think the hard part is the indoctrination of the Western medicine model with patients that are in our office. I mean, in the Bay Area, we're lucky because people are more in tune with stuff like that, and they'll seek chiropractic care as a primary form of entrance. But for decades, for hundreds of years, however long it's been going on for, the Western medicine is, here, take this intervention, take this home with you, take it once a day. So when I say I prescribe movement, I literally prescribe movement. Because, and I'll explain to people, like, this is tantamount to me giving you 800 milligrams of ibuprofen. You'll take it today and you'll feel good. Fine, we've done some work. I've put you through some correctives. But you're not just you got to run antibiotics for 12 days. I'm supposed to be some silver bullet? Come on. You got to meet me halfway here. And like, to your point about the business model, it's a dichotomous business model on the face of it.
Yeah.
The better we are, and the more people we get better quickly and with our assessment can prescribe effective, not just exercises, but dosages of exercises, reps, sets, accumulated volume over a week, progressions. This isn't work, let's move to this. This isn't working, let's regress down to that. How am I supposed to make money, right? Yeah. If you're better, and usually the more the better chiropractors are the ones maybe with a little bit more openings in their schedule because they don't have that reliance. It's the difference between giving a man a fish and teaching a man to fish, right? Because the biggest thing I would look for, like you said, the adjustment part, is a license. Our license is a license to adjust, but more importantly, it's a license to not adjust. Knowing when. That's why we get the doctor title. When you come in and something's weird, like that VBI case, the stroke thing, there are ways to screen with that, with history, with like analysis, sensory analysis, spinal nerve, do a full test. There are times where you should not do that.
Can we talk about this Yvette's condition too? Because I feel like she didn't even know anything about her own fucking condition. Can we school her?
Ehlers-Danlos?
Ehlers-Danlos.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. The irony there is that would be a contraindication for cervical adjusting, right? So yeah.
Explain what you just said right there.
Sure,
I think that's important. So it's quite ironic to me that somebody like herself is talking all this shit about chiros, and then
she really wouldn't. Yeah. So you want to take the reins?
Go ahead.
Okay. So Ehlers-Danlos is a collagen vascular disorder that it affects collagen, but more so the collagen that makes up.
But the DO
blood
adjusted
vessels.
her rib.
Sure, that was broken.
Yeah, that was
but
broken.
He's a goddamn genius.
That's right.
We're not doctors. So collagen vascular disorder. It was seen most recently. The most prevalent case that I know, or the most famous case, is there's a kid going into the draft in the NBA a couple of years ago. Do you remember reading about that?
Yeah.
So, tall kid, had a lot of talent as a player, was going to make it into the NBA. I forget the team. I think it might have been the Knicks. We're looking into him. They said, okay, you know what? We'll do, once you pass your physical, you're good. Drafts next day. Life is set. You're cruising, man. You're going to get entry level, whatever that is, 400 something grand. You're fucking set for life. Gets the medical back. Sorry, you have Ehlers-Danlos, you can't play. So Ehlers-Danlos, as it affects the collagen vascular makeup of blood vessels of like the arteries and veins, the biggest effect it'll have for an athlete like that is on the aortic arch, where the blood rapidly is leaving the heart, getting circumvented throughout the body. That pressure over time of that blood squeezing out of the heart through that archway is going to slowly erode. So under enough exertion, high enough blood pressure, some people have died. Exactly, rupture aortic arch, which is interesting. And I think now would be a good time to talk about the VBI, so that when Rogan initially stated that chiropractors kill people, he cited this case of the poor girl down in LA, the model in Los Angeles, who went in with neck pain to a chiropractor.
But she had fallen, from what I had heard, on set.
Yeah.
And like fell off some stairs
Sure.
and had like whiplash.
Yeah.
So, okay, so she already's coming into the office with a potential problem.
Yeah.
So
so the VBI, so the vertebrobasilar artery is what we're talking about. And now it has this funny route through your vertebral column of your cervical spine, makes 2 hard turns to get up into the brain.
Yep.
Right? Now, at those hard turns, just like the aortic arch with Ehlers-Danlos, with people who may have an undiagnosed collagen vascular disorder, it's more prevalent with females on birth control because that damages the vascular or the collagen makeup of that. Slowly over time, what can happen is that at each one of those tributaries of that artery, it's going to erode more and more away that bank of the turn. Now, what happens with a lot of cases, whether it be a fall or not, when blood gets places it's not supposed to be in the body, it's an irritant, right? That's what a bruise is, right? Now imagine blood being not where it's supposed to be in your suboccipital region of your head, of your neck. Yeah, that's going to give you a headache. You're going to go with neck pain. So they did, the Cassidy study is the one they drill home in school because this is a topic we have to cover on a next to day-to-day basis. So basically what it looked at, people who are going to chiropractors with neck pain that have these strokes, this incidence of VBI or VBA, whatever you want to call it, are having the stroke. The embolus is formed. The water has breached the banks of the river's edge as it turns. So that's why they're going in with pain. Most people, for their primary entrance with neck pain, would be a chiropractor. So they're coming in with these brutal headache-like symptoms. I mean, have you had one in your office that you sent out?
No.
I know of a few people that have come across them, sent them immediately out for an MRA, magnetic resonance angiogram, right? And then they screen them, boom, day saved. Does that guy get a piece on Entertainment Weekly?
Gold star.
Yeah, right.
No, you only kill someone.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
You saved my life. No, you killed me.
Yeah, exactly. But that guy in LA is going to get all the press. So the thing with that is the mechanism is the stroke is happening. Whether it's the backswing at the golf course, backing out of your driveway, a cervical adjustment, especially in the upper regions, is a lot of rotational. It's rotational based, just the way, whether it be the condyles of C1 on the occiput or the condyles of the occiput on C1 or C1 and C2, that articulation is meant to rotate. The ability of our spine to rotate increases all the way up to C1, C2. So the mechanism of injury therein is how you have these 2 almost hairpin turns of these riverbanks that are already flowing their borders, and now someone comes in thinking that 10 times out of 10 on a normal day when they adjust the neck like this, and it's just suboccipital tension of the rectus capitis posterior minor, the oblique muscles, the suboccipital extensor, silver bullet, good. But this time,
And the bad thing with that is she could have been driving in her car and someone honked behind her and she could have quickly turned to left or right. She could have stroked out right there as well. Yeah. That's the hard part. We just don't know.
I think people are thinking like when they're watching like a movie like Commando and Arnold sneaks up behind someone and twists their neck, boom, you're dead.
That's the finisher.
You'd have to really look. I did jiu-jitsu for 6 years and people were cranking on my fucking neck hard all the time. Like people I'm sure have died wrestling and doing that stuff. I've been to chiropractors. They don't crank my neck nearly as hard as the guys I'm wrestling with. So. I think one of the problems with Western medicine is one of its strengths. One of the strengths is we get very specialized. Like you go and become an osteopath, or you go and you learn the heart or the brain. Like you get in deep, you get in extremely deep and learn lots of detail about your particular subject, and you don't learn much about the others at all. No. I mean, you go to an MD, a doctor who's been to school for many, many, many years. They've taken 1 semester of nutrition. I know more nutrition than I've trained. I used to have my wellness studio was next to a Good Samaritan hospital. Fully 70% of my clients were surgeons and doctors. And they came to me and asked me questions about nutrition, movement, exercise, kinesiology, because that was not their specialty. But that becomes a problem with medicine where, people learn their one area and then they start to denounce other areas. Or they go to a doctor with a problem. If I go to an osteopath with knee pain, I can guarantee you right now the likelihood that I'm going to need surgery based on their opinion is much higher than if I go to one of you guys or a physical therapist or someone whose expertise is in movement. So, those are the things we have to look at. And I think medicine is going in this direction. It's not even close to there yet, but it's going in this direction where it's time to look at the whole fucking picture. Yeah. It wasn't that long ago that Western medicine made fun of meditation. meditation was made fun of 20 years ago. Like, you were crazy. It was woo-woo. It was bullshit. It didn't work. And now we have science, supporting meditation very, very strongly for things like anxiety, depression, and paranoia.
But let's go back to a little. I think the beginning on that end is you're looking at Western medicine, right? You look at our healthcare system. It's not a healthcare system. It's a sick care system. We rehab pain, right? That's what the medical system does, is they rehab pain. No different than someone coming to us over and over and getting an adjustment. Yeah. They go back to their MD for pills because they have low back pain. Right. Now all of a sudden they have to go see a pain management specialist. Now we're doing PRP injections. Now we're doing stem cell injections. Okay, and I get it asked all the time, should I get it done? Sure, if you're going to move differently once you get it done. Yeah. Because the problem is you sucked at moving to begin with. Yeah. You're still going to suck afterwards. Why is that going to fix you? Just because I injected some new shit into your body doesn't mean all of a sudden, bam, you're good to go. Right? So that's what I hate when people come into the office is, I'm not here to rehab your pain. I'm here to rehab you. What is dysfunctional about your body? That's what's going to breed a problem, not the pain. The pain is there. The pain is the first thing to show up, or last thing to show up, first thing to go away. You know, so when that goes away, it doesn't mean that you're fixed. No, yeah. But that's what we think. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to go crush 100 miles on a run right now because I don't have knee pain anymore. Bullshit. Your knee is still there. You don't have shitty knees because you have shitty knees, right? Yeah. You got a problem that's causing shitty knees. It wasn't the run, you know? And I think that's what a lot of people, start to look at is, oh, I have pain and my pain's gone. Great. You still suck at movement, though.
Now, to the defense of actual adjustments, and here's my belief on adjustments, and maybe you guys can, I'm sure you guys will correct me if I'm wrong, but when anytime you pop a joint or you manipulate your body, if you do it a certain way, you may feel some immediate pain relief. And there's a few theories as to why. One of them is, there's pain receptors, nociceptors, I think they're called. And when you cause certain movements, they'll signal the body, and the body releases painkillers. And this may be why when you go get an adjustment, you get immediate pain relief, or why when you get a massage, you get immediate pain relief, or, Now, can that benefit you in the long term? Yes. And the way I think it could benefit you is if your pain was severely preventing you from moving in a way that's beneficial, then getting rid of that pain will help the process. So, correct. Hey, I can't bend over. My back is fucked. You adjust me. Now I can move enough to do the exercises that correct the problem.
I mean, you want to talk evidence-based medicine, and this really made me laugh about this Psy Babe person on Rogan's show. Evidence-based medicine begins and ends as far as like impact factor, quality of research, strongest correlation, diet and exercise. Period. Hands down. There is not an intervention of any sort of subset of medicine, psychology, psychiatry, cardiothoracic surgery, anything that has a higher correlation to positive outcomes in diet and exercise. Hands down, bar none.
And what is every MD sending their patient to go? Go see the PT. Yeah. Check your diet. Every single time. Yeah. Right? That's what they're doing. Yeah. After here, I might feed you some pills, but go see your PT also. Yeah. Right? Oh, you better lose some weight. Okay.
And I think that too, a common misconception is, we talked about the spinal injection, is that going to make you move different? I have no problem with like people come in and ask about like cortisone injections for their knee or their
Love them and hate them.
Exactly. If they can bring you to a point where we can put you in these unstable positions to stabilize and strengthen where we need, absolutely.
But most people, they get the cortisone, their pain goes away, they never see us again, or the PT, or the massage, or whoever they're seeing.
Until they get the cortisone.
Until they get it again. And then realize it didn't stick this much, it was 6 months before, now it's 6 days. Why? Because you still suck at the way you moved. Yeah. And that nothing changed.
Just breaking down.
Well, the way I look at it is, if I have knee pain because I'm moving poorly, and you inject me with cortisone, which is a very, very potent, acute local anti-inflammatory. So now all the pain is gone from my knee, or substantially gone. Now I can move badly like I did before, and I could just do it even worse and not feel pain. And now I'm going to have problems with my knee. Or cortisone shot, pain is gone. Now, Dr. Brink or Shallow show me how to move properly, and I can do it now because my knee doesn't hurt, and I'm correcting the root of the problem. Yep. Now, how do you guys, is that how you guys use adjustments then? Do you use adjustments to help people to be able to do the exercises, or how should they be used, I guess would be a better question.
I look at where the joint is restricted. So they may come in with a low back issue. Most people's low backs are because the low back loves to give, and give. Usually the hips are what are restricted on that end, mid-back on the other end. So if I'm going to adjust something, I'm going to mobilize the hip, I'm going to mobilize the mid-back. I will rarely ever touch someone's low back because most people's low backs are so jacked to begin with, I don't need to keep creating rotation into their back. Leave it alone. But the other chiro, they adjust me all the time. My pain went away. Yeah, and why are you here?
Yeah. I mean, low back by design is meant to be stable.
Yeah.
Hips and upper back meant to be mobile.
Yeah.
So, I mean, addressing, and it's different by case to case, but I do the same. Like, the adjustment is an adjunct. It is not the center to what we do. And when we do it better than people who have now seen the value of it because we've been trained to do it. Now we just need to sort of pick and choose where that adjustment should occur. But I mean, it's all movement based. Frankly, like when you're laying down face up, face down on my table, that's great.
Yep.
Very rarely do people feel pain in that position. Let's put a bar in. It hurts when I squat.
Yep.
Guess what?
Yeah.
We got 38 squat racks outside the door. Let's roll. Hurts when I deadlift.
Yeah.
All right, because I mean, we could send someone away with the corrective exercise and all that. But there's a difference between corrective exercise and exercising correctly.
Yes. Yeah.
Which, I mean, as you guys know, as a history of training, that people are like, oh, you're familiar with deadlift? Oh yeah, deadlift it all the time. Knock knees, dog taking a shit upper back, like just total nightmare. It's like, okay, I mean, we could align the tires, but if you're still gonna go smash that thing into the curb every week, we're gonna have to keep doing this. So jumping to the actual cause, which leaves.
And we've got Prime Pro that's coming out.
Yeah.
Right? That's exactly
the upsell.
That's exactly what we did right there.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Is we are teaching you to move better, right? To exercise correctly. Right? Not correct exercise, but we want you to exercise correctly. We want to make sure that every joint in your body is actually doing what it should be doing. The muscle is going to follow what the joint does, right? If your joint is restricted, the muscle is not going to follow you. It's going to say, crap, I'm perceiving a threat here because the joint itself isn't doing its job. So if I perceive threat, what's the threat going to do? It's going to protect it. It's going to protect by naturally becoming tighter. So over time, what have you done? You've just made yourself tighter and tighter and tighter, but go ahead and go foam roll all you want. Yeah. You never fix the joint itself.
And this is why I think in my practice, when I had my facility, I worked very closely with chiropractor, physical therapist, massage therapist, and myself. And we would all, we'd all work together, and our success rate went through the roof.
Sure.
The other thing too is, and I want to really quickly, I want to strike down the myth that creating a model that requires your patients to see you over and over again is not a successful business model. Now, intuitively, we think it is, right? Like, oh, they're going to need, it would be like me being a personal trainer saying, I can't get them too lean because once they get lean, they're going to need me more. I got to keep them kind of fat. It doesn't fucking work.
No.
The reality is, if you want to be an effective practitioner of whatever you're doing, fucking solve the problem or figure out or connect to people who can solve the problem.
Since you're going to draw that parallel, I feel like it's necessary we talk about that because that's the same issue that we see in our field and that is exactly how most trainers teach it, is you come, you hire me, you're 30 pounds overweight, and I'm going to restrict your calories, hammer the fuck out of your body, and try and get you as much results as I possibly can over the course of 6 to 8 weeks. And then what happens? You can't maintain that. You can't keep that up, so you fall out of shape. You come back and you hire me 6 months later when you're getting ready for a Hawaii trip or Las Vegas trip or getting ready for a wedding, and it's this vicious cycle versus actually addressing the root cause, which is what we talk about all the time on the show, addressing your relationship with food, addressing your relationship with exercise and yourself and your own body image, and understanding that before you even go that direction. It's very similar.
And that in itself is true healthcare.
Yeah.
Right.
That is not what our medical system is based upon. Our medical system is based upon sick care. Right?
I mean, my motivation from a business standpoint is to get you as better as possible,
right.
so you can go F yourself up
right.
again, so you
And
can get back in my.
I tell them that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, my job is to get you out of here as fast as you can because I know at some point you will hurt yourself again, and I'll see you again. Because what we did is we fixed you right the first time. Yeah. But I know you as an athlete, you're still going to go out there and you're going to push the envelope, and I'm okay with that. I've done it myself. Both ACLs torn, back surgery. I've done it, and I still do it. And I'm going to sit there and say, and I'll preach to them, I'm going to do exactly what you do. Anything that I give you, I do myself. So I will make sure that, hey, I'm walking the walk, but I want to go after true health care.
Yeah.
Right. And I think to Brink's point about healthcare versus sick care, and what I like what you guys do, I think even we are too upper echelon with healthcare. We should not, we're primary entrance for a lot of people here. That's the doctor title allows us to, people walking off the street into the office, all right, what's going on? I think what you guys are doing too, I think more of your audience is the personal training crowd. When I was a trainer, and I still train to this day, because take my best tools away from me, take my hands away from me, and I can still get results.
Yeah.
I train hour-long sessions with clients, maybe 20 hours a week, because that's healthcare. So if we can get trainers on board to not do this calorie restricted bullshit, set them up for a fail so they have to come back for the wedding or the Hawaii trip, but get them on board with the assessment. That's why I put out the media that I put out, because I think the ability to assess at that entry level, at a training level, give them the autonomy to take care of themselves. Then if there's something they can't handle, me and Brink are here.
But I think that's a lot of the insecurities that, in our profession or as a personal trainer, right? I may lose this person. So I'm going to keep them right here. So they have to keep coming back and rely on me. Like, I don't care about that. Go and leave, because if I can fix you in 2 and 3 or 4 or 5 visits, whatever it might be, depending on their issue, and you are 100% as to what you can do, you're going to refer 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 people in to see me. I'm okay with that.
Look, I had my average clients, they owe me for 10 years. I mean, that's way above what the average personal trainer can expect with, in terms of clients staying with them. And that was my approach. My approach was, I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to really help them in a true way. And your business ends up growing. I think there is a bit of a misconception. And yes, the Western medicine model is sick care. I don't necessarily think it's this massive conspiracy to take our money and keep us sick. I just think that the nature of the beast tends to direct us in that direction. For example, if I'm a pharmaceutical company and I want to come out with a medication for cancer, I want to come out with a cancer drug. I know the FDA process is going to cost me about $1 billion. $1 billion. So at the least, it's going to be in the hundreds of $millions to get this process approved and tests done, and it's like a 10-year process. Now, am I going to invest in this potentially new avenue of treatment that may be a cure? Like, ooh, look at cannabinoids may cure cancer. Let's invest $500 million in this to see if it actually works. Or I can take my money and make a type of chemo that I know chemo is going to do something. I'm going to tweak it a little bit and change it a little bit, and I know it's going to get approved, and I know I'm going to get some money out of it. And that it's just the nature of the beast. Where if I go to the doctor, and let's say this MD is excellent. Let's say this MD understands nutrition, understands exercise, just on a whole new level. The likelihood that the average person going to a doctor with a heart problem or blood lipid levels that are all over the place, the likelihood that person is going to take the advice of the doctor who says, listen, we need to completely change your lifestyle versus here's a pill, take this every day and you're fine. It's much, much lower. So part of the problem is us. I really think part of the problem is us. Nobody wants to go to a doctor and hear that the answer to their problem is change their fucking life.
But that's them coddling them, right? And that's our system, is to coddle you to what do you want, not what do you need.
And I think that's the art of healthcare, regardless of being, it's because say that MD that knows the value of all this, and preaches that to everyone. All right, this is what we're gonna do. You have cancer. We're gonna go keto. The best research says when you're going into chemo, we'll get you into ketosis and all that, and goes for that complete overhaul. So I mean, we have, I'm sure, a lexicon of corrective exercises, but we need to realize who's in front of us. Give me a high-end athlete, someone whose job to feeding their wife and kids relies on it. NFL guys, UFC guys, whoever. If I give them 10 of the best researched and, in my experience, the best exercise for their condition, 10 out of 10 they're going to do it. You bring me the CEO from the Silicon Valley startup.
I don't have time.
Exactly. So I got to pick and choose from that list, because I know these 10 out of 10 would do it. This would fix his imbalance, fix his instability, move better, feel better. This guy works 22-hour days. He's on calls to China. He's on planes to Japan every other week. What can I fit into this guy's life? So it's taking that here, have a pill, go, and taking that blood lipid panel, we're going to overhaul your life, and meeting it somewhere in the middle. And I think that's an art form that, honestly, I think that, call it alternative medicine, chiropractors, PTs, acupuncturists, massage therapists, is a model that they adopt better than MDs. Because you need to understand the person, the person, not the symptom.
Well, and it comes back to, I'm sure you get it all the time, is, what exercise is best for me? I say the one you're going to do. Right.
No, it's
I mean,
true.
Did you guys just become best friends?
But the pain thing, it's just like I got to do chiropractic. Sorry, sweetheart.
No, I think there's a few flaws with the Western way and the scientific method way of proving things, and one of the flaws is that they'll say things like, there's no evidence. Well, what they consider evidence is rigorous scientific, and which is fine. By the way, I think if you're going to have evidence, that's one of the best methods is to use the scientific method, the double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, control, all that stuff, peer-reviewed research. I think that's some of the best. However, can it be influenced and skewed by special interests? Yes, we have strong evidence of that. There was tons of fucking evidence showing that cigarettes were not addictive during the time when we were trying to come out against them. And there's many other examples. Is it slow? Fuck yeah, it's a very slow process. And I know this because I have personal experience. I have a family member with Crohn's disease, very, very bad Crohn's disease. His mother is a nutritionist. She's a licensed nutritionist. Now, her understanding nutrition was from that model. And so she approached it from that model, and nothing was fucking working. Right now, your treatment for Crohn's when you go to the doctor is high doses of steroids, and if it's really bad, then they actually give you a form of chemotherapy to really shut down your immune system to reduce this autoimmune effect that it can be debilitating and sometimes fatal in people. So this licensed nutritionist aunt of mine went online, and she looked at all the forums. And luckily, technology now allows us to do this. And she read all these forums with all these Crohn's sufferers, and she got advice that was not scientifically backed yet. One of the things that she learned from these people was there was something called a carbohydrate-specific diet that tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people with Crohn's were using to great success. So she applied it to her son and reversed his Crohn's disease. Now, does there scientific evidence that the carbohydrate-specific diet works on Crohn's disease? Not yet. But you can look and see anecdote, and when there's enough anecdote, a lot of times that points you in the right direction. So I really fucking hate it when I hear the science crowd denounce all anecdote or denounce anything that doesn't have potential the hard scientific evidence.
They're going to end up eating crow later on anyways. That's what
many
always
times
happens
they
in
do.
science.
Especially
Well,
if
I
it's
think too is
non-invasive.
not reading. Like we talked about interpreting research, which makes me laugh about this SciBabe character because it's like, show me one peer-reviewed publication, not JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, not New England Journal of Medicine, nothing. Her biggest publication to date is on a shit-stirring website that no longer exists because they got sued by Hulk Hogan and Peter Thiel. Swear to God, that Gawker article that she went after. I swear to God, the Gawker article that she went after the food babe, food babe, right? Was her claim to fame. And if you'll read that on her Wikipedia page, which reads like a poorly written Tinder ad. It's awful. She clearly wrote that. But her main publication is on Gawker. You're not a scientist. Show me one fucking published peer-reviewed journal article. That's bullshit.
By her own criteria.
Well, I'm glad we went back this direction too.
I was going to say, and bring up vaccinations with her. If we're talking about science and all that type of stuff, I mean that's a crazy part right there. It's like she's saying that we are adjusting babies, and then we're telling them don't get vaccinated. Both my kids are vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. No problems, but there are others that do have problems. But yet we still feed our kids every single day with food. That really sucks. So is the food worse? Is the vaccination worse? Because the government now is sitting there saying, well, I don't know. We're going to sit there and now we're going to put our hand into it. But they haven't put their hand into the food market yet.
Yeah. Well, because the food market's hand is in their wallet.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, when she says stuff like, we need the FDA to cover this, we need more regulation, I cringe very, very strongly because do I believe regulations have done some good? Yes. Are they infallible? Fuck no. They have done some horrible decisions. They've made some horrible recommendations. I mean, you know how many medications every year that were approved through the lengthy FDA process that then get retracted and like, oh, sorry, let's take these off the market because we're finding now they cost
someone grew another ear.
Well, some of those heartburn medications now that are over the counter, like, oh, it looks like it 25% increase in all-cause mortality and dementia.
Well, listen to every commercial that's out there at the very end. Yeah. They have a litany of what might go wrong.
And oftentimes
you may die. I want to take that?
One of the things that's listed is usually the very thing it's starting to
Sure.
treat. And I mean, you could speak on this about not even just interventions, pharmacology interventions, but surgery.
Sure.
God, how many spinal surgeries are founded on nothing?
Exactly.
And it's like, we got to clean up the mess.
But you got to clean up the mess. And again, going back into sort of the pain and the rehab part of things, and I see it all the time. People are like, oh, well, I hear back surgery sucks. Well, if it was that bad, they wouldn't be doing it anymore. Yeah. They'd be shut down. The problem is that it's not that the back surgery sucked because the surgeon did do his job. It's what you didn't do afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right?
And
so,
hear that.
yeah, and they don't want to hear that. Yeah. But the surgeon didn't do it. No, they did. They fixed your crappy back, you know. You just didn't fix the rest of your crappy movement pattern that you'd already had prior to that.
That caused the crappy
back.
They
fix structure. It's on you to fix function.
I want to address something too because there was a part in Joe's episode that he seemed confused. I totally understood why. I think you guys can articulate it even better than me. Is why she was told not to do yoga. He seemed so baffled by that advice. It's quite obvious to me why she wouldn't be doing that considering her condition. Can you explain that, why that she was told that, and why that actually was probably good advice that she shouldn't be doing something like yoga?
Well, I think that would double back to the Ehlers-Danlos condition, right? So here you have something that can weaken, the integrity of the inner lining of your blood vessels, and now that is not specific. I mean, granted, there are a lot of different collagen types in your body, but it's not just specific to the inner lumen of the blood vessel. So she is prone, as I find most.
So she's probably lax. She's got really lax joints.
Yeah, for lack of, or to put a fine point on it, that would be exactly the reason why.
So they're going to go on there and stretch something beyond what it needs to be stretched in whatever capacity that it might be, even though it could be gentle yoga, but it's putting her into a compromised position, which they don't know what that end result might be.
Mm-hmm. Well, stability is a fine balance between
mobility,
flexibility,
and
mobility, and strength.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time.
Well, it's the ability to resist movement, not generate force. Right.
But having all of this range of motion with no strength is useless range of motion.
Right.
That's why her shoulder dislocated all the time, and she had to get surgery.
Well, that's the inverted bell curve of hypermobility and immobility, right? It's not a linear progression. People shouldn't strive to be as mobile as her. Yeah. They should strive to be in the center of that curve. You don't want to be, the contortionist. And you also don't want to be the fat powerlifter that can't put his shoes on. You want to be somewhere right in the middle.
People don't realize. You know how many yoga instructors I used to train with hip problems?
Oh, for sure.
Because the hips are they always stretch the hips and open them up, and they'd come see me with hip problems, and we would strengthen their hips with like squats and lunges, and boom, hip pain was gone. Yeah. Had nothing to do with their lack of flexibility. I mean, they were incredibly flexible.
That's most of my dancers that I treat, right? Is again, they have amazing, ranges of motion. They just can't control that range of motion at end ranges. So once they get there, all of a sudden they're hanging on their ligaments, and crap's going to go wrong.
And if I'm not mistaken, because you guys are having SPINA here next February. That's a big part of the FRC from what I can gather, is that end range control, which I think is huge.
Yeah.
Get into the end range, connect to the muscle, contract. So you've got that. You've got some stability there. Back to the whole, regulatory aspect, and that we need more and more and more regulations for our safety. Economists talk about a lot of times the unseen. And I'll give you an example. Let's use FDA regulations for medications that we use all the time. We talk about how we need these strict regulations and process with the FDA, which now costs, like I said, up to $1 billion just to approve a drug. What we don't see are all the potential drugs that never get approved, that never get passed, all of the chances and opportunities that we don't take because of the cost of this regulation. And many economists actually equate that to more deaths than the ones we actually get with the drugs that we approve that then turn out to be bad. I mean, think about it. Think about all the potential treatments that never even get explored because the potential cost of just trying to get them approved is so high that they don't even look in those directions. And so we end up developing treatments on top of treatments which are based on the same faulty models, and we don't look in other directions. There's medications that are amazing that are approved in other countries that can't afford to be approved in this country because of our process. So more and more and more regulation isn't the fucking answer. And in fact, I would say less regulation is the answer, especially considering now that technology is where it's at. There's a device that are being tested at the moment that actually uses I don't know exactly how it works, but it fires out a laser. The way it refracts, it comes back to the computer in this particular device, and it tells you everything that's in that food based on that. Your proteins, fats, carbohydrates, chemicals, everything. When those become readily available, why are we having any other kinds of regulations?
Because you need to not substitute regulation with technology, but rather with education, right? Because we have these tools now that can measure these advanced biometrics that used to take, weeks and weeks and blood tests and send out to labs and all this stuff, and bam, and instantaneously it's on your phone. But what do you do with that information, right? And that I think is a huge problem, is the education side.
Yes.
And you talked about. Go ahead, Jess.
No, I didn't say.
Well, I mean, I just think you talked about like the perpetual cycle that we're in. There's a great book called Honest Medicine by Norton Hadler. So he's an MD, and he goes over a basic physical exam and the components of a physical exam, and examines the research of what we think to be ironclad medicine. Looks into, should you take aspirin for primary prevention of a stroke or something like that. And he goes into these things that are so just set in our ways because we've evolved to this point in Western medicine. And it actually puts a really fine light on it and goes, listen, like, we're still trying to figure this out. Right. Like we don't have a good hold on this. Like, and that's the thing, where that light of just trying to figure it out gets put on us because we're. Go ahead.
No, so that goes back to that education component of it, right? If that client walks through the door, our job is to educate them as to what they're going to do when they walk outside our door again. They are smarter than they walked in, right? So they know what to do in order to make themselves better. That's not to come back and see me if that's the case.
And do you know what the definition of doctor is by Latin based? It's teacher. Yeah. Right. So that, like, what he just hit the nail on the head, and that's exactly what any doctor should do, whether that be a doctor of chiropractic, an MD, or otherwise. It's now the education.
And if the business gets in front of that, right, that's when I have to keep seeing that person over and over and over again, which then goes back into why our profession then is saying, oh, I need to see you 3 times a week for 300 years. It's like, no. My job is not to do that. My job is to educate you. But then that also goes back, and I think, in our educational process, which is a business. And the business is to keep having people come through the doors, which then goes back into, okay, is there a weed out process? Because now we can go down this rabbit hole. Yes, there's a weed out process for MDs and PTs and that type of stuff. As a chiro school, not so much. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves. There is no weed out process. There needs to be one. Yeah. You want to regulate who comes and who doesn't, and to weed out the bottom feeders from the top feeders.
Now you're referring to because they mentioned this, that everybody who applies to a chiropractic school gets accepted.
And not everyone. I mean, there's a small baseline that you have to have.
I think our real gatekeeper, if you will, is the national board exam. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's the thing.
So you go through the education, but that doesn't mean you're.
Yeah, exactly. The schools are designed to pass you through the national board, to educate you what you need to know. And I think there is a big onus on the board of chiropractic examiners. And I just recently wrote, just a couple of years ago, my final of my 4 national board exams to get my license. And there's studying for the test, and then there's stuff that I use in practice, and there's a dissonance there. And I totally agree that the board is lagging on what is forced as gatekeeping knowledge to set people out into the world with.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because I respect the hell out of you guys for your movement knowledge. I said this earlier in the episode, and your correctional exercise knowledge and exercise knowledge in general. How much of that did you learn in chiropractic school, and how much of that did you learn on your own?
So if you come into my office, you'll see my diploma that's on there from Palmer, right, is what got me to the means. But you'll look at all the other, I don't know, however many freaking letters you want to put after my name, if that was the case, And that's where I'm at right now, right? And that's been sort of post-school, knowledge. And that's me taking stuff from training, from PTs, from other chiros, from whatever it might be, and trying to figure out, okay, how does this all mix into how I do stuff?
That's a great I would love to ask both of you, because I do too. I hold you guys both in this very high regard. And what would you guys both say of all the different certifications and bits of knowledge and people, what do you think has been one of the biggest game changers for you, or maybe even a paradigm shattering moment for you in your career that was like, man, when I took that certification, or when that really came together for me? Do you guys have
train yourself? Yeah. Train yourself. Chiropractic school can lead you to a point to ask better questions and interpret more abstract answers, and not just, it gives you an internal logical consistency of how the body works. And I think the most I've learned from, and I'm sure you've taken much more certifications than I have, because I'm more or less new to all this, but I find physically putting myself through, we spoke on this before, I have patients that sumo deadlift, and it's like, well, okay, I know how the hip mechanics work, I know how the low back works, I can see as a power lifter the advantage of doing that, but I can't feel. I've never done that. I'm a conventional deadlifter in competition. So what do? I do a training block of sumo deadlift. I get it. That kinematic awareness, that proprioceptive awareness, tapping into that movement pattern, understanding what they're feeling, and then being able to use my knowledge base from school, my understanding of the anatomy of biomechanics. That to me, and again, I'm new to this, has been the biggest we'll call it game changer for me.
So would you say that that's a problem with chiropractic today, is that people will graduate, pass the exam, boom, now I'm a chiropractor, I'm going to work on people, and they don't further their learning and education?
Yeah, and back 10 years ago when I graduated, a statistic was in 5 years, 50% of your class will not be practicing anymore. So, and I see that, and I think the reason for that is A, there is no weed out process, right? So, but you also have the complete bookworm that has no idea how to hold a conversation, right? In our profession, we have to be able to talk to someone because we're sitting there having a conversation. They have to lay down on the table. We have to put our hands on them, right? Whereas again, you look at an MD, they don't care, right? They have an influx of people coming in no matter what. We have to go out and essentially sell ourselves, if you will, and as we're doing that, how do you do that? And they don't teach you that in school. So now all of a sudden you get out, you get weeded out. Well, then how is that any different than the person that's next door to you? And we freak out because, you're right next to another chiropractor. Yeah, so what? I've got, 3 that are 2 doors down from me. But I promise you, those and what I do are night and day different.
Yeah. Which is the problem.
Yeah. So going back into, like myself is what did I learn? My 10 years has evolved completely, but that's also evolved because I've injured myself. So I went to PTs and I did my own. So I learned, and then as I kept learning, I'm always evolving into what's the next thing. So for me over the past 2 years has been like, more like animal flow, FRC, kin stretch, going back to how does my body actually work and how do I feel my body work? The biggest thing is how can I feel it work? Versus not just doing the motion because so-and-so said do this movement. How do I feel? Do I actually feel my body doing what they say it should be doing? Or can I not connect to that area?
Now, to your guys' defense, this is true for any profession.
Yeah, I was just
for sure.
You can get the most regulated, knee surgeon or, whatever.
4 out of 5 dentists think that 5th dentist is an asshole. Like, come on, man. Like, are you serious?
Yeah. I mean, it's true for any. I think the important thing that I've always applied to myself and I've always tried to preach to people is to question things. Always question things. Like they talk about vaccines in that episode as if vaccines are like it's 100% awesome. Everybody gets every vaccine. And it's like, look, all vaccines are not the same.
Yeah.
They just fucking aren't. By nature, they're not all the same. This one has a particular virus in it, and this one has something else. And what they put in them and the amount that we give people now is far, far more. When I was a kid, they give us like 2 at one time. Now you go to the doctor and your kid's getting
500.
He's getting a shit ton of them. And a part of the process of the body developing immunity is this this stimulation of the immune system, which can cause inflammation. It can cause a fever. I know my kids get a fever after they get a vaccine. It's totally normal. Well, could there potentially be a fucking difference between giving a kid 10 in one day and giving them 1, or between different vaccines? Of course there is. There can be.
Well, there was a guy who was touted as the guy who brought vaccines into Western medicine. His son wrote a book flying in the face of his father about a limited vaccine schedule. So here you have not only internal dissension within the medical community, you have an internal dissension within a family of people that brought immunization to the forefront, and then someone like his son stepped back and went, "Oh no, this is too much." I mean, and don't get me wrong, like we mentioned in the last podcast, like we kicked polio's ass, and I think there is a shared responsibility of herd immunity. Like if you have something like measles, you need to keep that herd immunity above like 85%. Something like polio, you need to keep that up. Because if that drops too low, then you have pandemic.
And I think that's their fear. I think, and it's starting to shoot them in the foot. I mean, there's government organizations that exist specifically to defend vaccine companies in case of lawsuit and to keep it quiet, mainly because, it's very hard to educate people. It's very easy to scare the shit out of people.
Sure.
Like you said, one chiropractor who's a shitty one kills some lady because she's got some disorder because he adjusted her neck. Well, now fucking people are scared of getting adjustments. If I write an article tomorrow and I get the statistics on how many children get strangled by their seatbelts, I guarantee you a lot of parents aren't going to put seatbelts on their kids because they read that. It's very easy to scare people.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of, part of the problem. And I think, here's my problem is force. Like, don't fucking force anybody to do anything. And I understand herd immunity. I get that. That's hard science. But the second I hear the government, the same government that, interned Japanese people and segregated blacks and, gave syphilis to black prisoners, not that long ago, is the same government that's going to tell me you have to fucking do this. I don't think so. Let me question it, and then I'll make my own decision. And,
and that holds true for everything, though.
Right.
You should always be questioning. And I get that question from, the forum all the time. Hey, I'm seeing this chiro, I'm seeing this chiro, I'm seeing this chiro. What do you think? I'm like, I don't know. What do you think? If you think at all you have a question, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
If you have the choice. You have the choice to sit there and say, do I think that this person is legit or not? And if you have to question that, there's your answer.
And that questioning should permeate every level of medicine that you go to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just because a surgeon says you need surgery, it does not mean you need surgery.
And Rogan even talked about it. He's like, I went to some dude in Hollywood that was $140. Okay, if you thought that was too expensive or you weren't getting your money's worth, why'd you keep going?
Yeah.
Go somewhere else. You've got a big enough name that I guarantee every person out there would take you.
Yeah.
$140,
dude, come on.
Yeah.
Man.
And all he's doing is popping and praying. I'm like, geez.
Well, I would like I would like a debate or discussion with this young lady with some chiropractors that are legit and have
I would
a nice
love to have her come and see me.
Yeah, I was to say we'll host
For
it.
sure.
Yeah.
We'll host it.
I'd love to
maybe
have
between Joe's maybe this gets to Joe and maybe with his connections with her we can organize it. I'd fly her out here.
Yeah,
so.
she's just down SoCal.
Yeah,
I'll make
not
the
far.
drive.
Yeah, no shit. I'll fly her out. I mean, we
Make
pay
the
for her to
drive.
come in here to host that. But
She
to be
just
honest with you, listening to her talk to Joe, and then when he actually even started, it took about an hour or so into the episode before you start to hear him start to kind of challenge her thinking on stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, she was all over the board.
Yeah.
I was just like, I can't believe he even had this girl on the show. I can't believe he's allowing her to slam a whole population of people and put them all in one box just because her thoughts on this, dude. Like, this is ridiculous.
But if that's one person's thought, there's a million others that have the same thought.
right.
Right.
Well,
so
and now there's more.
yes, and now there's more, which is great because again, for us, maybe this is a way that helps progress our profession. This is a way to help push us. Be like, okay, all these bottom feeders right now that are feeding on the bottom, that are doing all the crappy stuff. Hopefully, that is something that will start to change because of that. And again, change is has to happen in the educational system first, because the people that are already out there, they're still going to do what they're going to do because they've already built that business model.
Well, this was an important factor that played, and when we actually even aligned ourselves with you guys. I mean, all three of us have got, I don't know, between all three of us, I don't know how many, probably hundreds of chiropractors that we've either worked with, done stuff with, and never have we ever brought somebody in here and said, listen, we're going to attach ourselves with these guys because we believe what they're doing is incredible and is good work, and there needs to be more people like you guys. So, I hope that this platform is one that we can get people like you guys out there to more people, because there is. And I was someone like Joe Rogan, so I get it. I understand how you could have a bad taste in your mouth, because it wasn't one, it wasn't two, it was quite a few for me that I went through that I was like, fuck, man, these guys, how can these guys not help me in an area that I feel like they're supposed to be more educated than I am? And I just kept running into that. And if it wasn't for me meeting Brink first, I probably wouldn't have been open-minded enough to even listen to another chiro.
I mean, like, it's the same goes with a medical doctor as well. I mean, I had a bad experience where, just coming in, they're basing everything off of BMI still, and they're sending me stuff to get to this obesity clinic. And they didn't even look at me and realize I lifted weights, and,
You're just a
they're
fat
still
ass.
touting the same shit. Yeah. So, I don't know. It all just you need to really be critical and think for yourself going into, getting help and do your education. And so I think it's important that people like you are out there and, like, you're trying to teach people, like, look, like, if you're coming in with these issues, like, here's the steps you're going to take, and you have to do the work yourself.
Dude, I had a very close family member who had cancer.
And I'm not obese.
And I'll never forget.
On the record.
On the record.
Just to put it out there.
He's obese-ish.
Ish. Yeah,
Not
I
according to your BMI.
fluffy.
I had a very close family member with cancer, and I went with her to her oncology appointments, and I asked nutrition questions, and his answer was
They don't know.
His answer, no, it wasn't even I don't know. I would have loved that. I would have loved, like, I don't know.
They don't know.
He literally said, no, nutrition has no effect. It's not going to, don't change your eating, eat whatever you crave. It's not going to have any effect on what we're doing. dermatologists will say this. If you have
I've
acne,
got that with my psoriasis. When I go, I've been seeing a dermatologist for fucking I don't know how many years now. I've 25. I've had psoriasis, and I've been asking them every single time. I'll bring all kinds of new research to them, saying, "I just read this. What do you think about that?" Oh no. Oh no. And just give the shots, take the pills, take the creams. It's like constantly that.
Walk the walk.
Yeah, it's like, dude, it's how can you tell me that nutrition plays no role in my skin? That doesn't make sense to me. How does that make sense to you guys, and how you guys preach that? So it's everywhere. It's not
but
just
every chiro is clearly teaching the alkali diet.
Yeah, that's right.
You guys don't teach that?
Yeah.
You guys don't teach that?
I got lemon water in my office all the time.
Know what that was until I
had no
look
idea
it
either.
up. I was like, wait, am I a real chiropractor? Am I, did I miss a meeting?
You're not in the know.
Yeah.
Apparently not.
Teach him alkali and give him lemons.
I think the other part of the problem is just that you have these people. Usually the answer's somewhere in the middle, right? And you've got people way over here where everything is Western medicine. Then you've got chiropractors who tend to go way over here where they're anti-Western medicine, and everything that's not Western medicine has value. And it's those people, those outliers that don't make up a majority, but they can make a decent chunk who give everybody
the most noise.
They make the most noise, and they give people a bad name. Again, like we're talking about doctors. Like there's some great fucking amazing doctors out
I
there.
work with a ton of them.
Exactly.
A ton of neuros and sports orthos and pain management specialists, and that's the lovely thing about that is they send them back to see me, right? Because they know what we're doing.
Well, listen, I know that you guys have plenty of people you need to go kill today, so I don't want to. I don't want.
I gotta go rack and crack.
Time to go crack those babies, huh? Yeah.
I know you guys have some lives you need to go ruin, so I want to make sure that I let you. I appreciate you guys coming in the studio today. I'm sure we'll do follow-ups to this. If you guys, real quick, best place to find both you, Jordan, all your best places to get a hold of you.
TheMuscleDoc.com is a website. You can email me, Jordan@themuscledoc.com. Instagram, _muscle_doc. You can find me on Twitter, same thing.
Excellent. How about you, Brink?
Yeah, Premier Spine and Sport. That's my office. That's the IG and Facebook and all that type of stuff as well.
Premier Spine and Sport.
Yeah, Premier
Excellent.
Spine and Sport.
Doug, are we airing this before the webinar? Sure. Excellent. So we're going to do a free webinar actually with Dr. Brink where we go through Prime Pro and break it down for you for free. So we're going to show you assessments, and we'll show you some exercises on how to correct some of the problems that you might find with your body when you do these assessments. The place to register for this free webinar is mapsprimepro.com. Also, you can check us out on Instagram at MindPump Media, and we all have personal pages. Mine is MindPump Sal, Justin is MindPump Justin, Adam is MindPump Adam, and Doug, the producer, is MindPump Doug.
Beautiful. Fire. How'd that look, Douglas?
Hold on. We're still live.
Oh, jeez.
Keep your pants on.
No racial epithets.
Shit, fuck ass.
That's right.